Alright, so we got our animation for it set up. Now we just need to preview to see how it looks. So the first thing we want to do is take our playhead and just click and drag it all the way back to the start. Now if you want to preview without seeing the guides, the motion guide with the dots along it, or the edges of the layer, you just need to deselect the layer. So clicking anywhere off the layer should do that. Then to preview, you're going to press the space bar. It may take a second or two for it to start to render. Once it renders, it'll play it through. And it shouldn't have too much lag to it because it's a pretty simple animation right now. Now this is a good start, but it really doesn't look much like a bouncing ball at this point. And there's a couple things that we need to put into it to make it a little bit more convincing. And it harkens back to the animation principles of squash and stretch, of easing, a general feel of gravity to have it pull down a little bit so it bounces less each time, and adjusting the arcs a little bit because the shape of the bounces is off. And we can do all that within After Effects by using other properties and by making adjustments to the existing properties, position property that we've already done. Also, if you don't want to have to preview the entire animation, we got this extra 2 seconds at the end of mine that just kind of seems like dead space, you can change the work area so that you only preview a small amount. Your work area can be adjusted up here. If you look, when you hover over this wider bar directly over your timeline, you'll see work area start at the end and then work area end at the end down here. If you click and drag them, you can shrink them. Then when you preview, it'll only play through that section. You can also use hotkeys to adjust the beginning and end of the work area. Use the letter B as in boy to adjust the beginning, and the letter N as in no to adjust the end. And it'll snap to wherever your playhead is. You can also drag both of them together by grabbing the middle and moving it around. This is especially useful if you have a really long project and you only want to preview a small section of it, especially when you get towards the end of that project. So we're going to put a couple animation principles into this. I highly recommend you also go online. You could just do a Wikipedia search for 12 principles of animation to look at the different principles. They are built more for character animation, but a lot of them can be adapted to help you make better motion graphics as well, which is just another form of animation. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to affect what's called the easing of this. What the easing is it's the change in velocity in between keyframes. So right now we have what's called linear easing. And that means that each one of these frames in between the keyframes is evenly spaced. This gives us a very robotic sort of feel, because we know in real life things don't always move exactly the same speed. Things need to slow down and speed up. The best way I can think of to explain this is think about when you run like a race. When you start out, you're not going your immediate top speed. You got to build up that speed a little bit. And when you stop, you don't just immediately stop. You have to slow down to a stop. Basically, everything in the real world works in this sort of way, with the exception of maybe robots. They can go, at the same speed the whole time. But as people, natural things like this always has easing, and without having that easing in, everything's going to feel robotic. So this easing alone is pretty easy to put on. We're going to do what's called easy eases, which are kind of pre-built eases. As we get later on into the class, we'll also do customized easing, so you can make adjustments to your easing. But applying easy eases makes it pretty easy to do, and also makes the project look significantly better. So what we want to do is we want to think about how gravity is going to affect this ball and how that would change the timing in between these keyframes. So the idea is the closer this thing gets to the ground, the faster it's going to go. And as it heads back up this arc, it's going to start to slow down again and let gravity pull it back down. So we need to create this using easing. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be slowing down all these points at the top up here. And we'll start with the first spot here. So go ahead and move your playhead to the start of your animation and click on this first keyframe down here in your timeline view. Then you're going to right click on it, choose Keyframe Assistant, and we have the option of Easy Ease, Easy Ease In, and Easy Ease Out. The way this works is Easy Ease In would move into the keyframe, Easy Ease Out moves out of the keyframe, and then Easy Ease does both. So for instance, on this keyframe right here, Easy Ease would make it go slower as it's moving up, Easy Ease Out would make it go slower as it's moving down this way. And applying the Easy Ease will do both. So it slows down, stays slow, and then gains speed as it goes down. So since this first keyframe here, it doesn't have anything leading into it, the proper choice here would be to apply Easy Ease Out. And when you apply that, you'll actually see these dots shift so that they're a little bit closer together in your first keyframe and they're more spread out in the later keyframe. Now, since it automatically kind of spreads them out in the later keyframe, that means we don't have to do anything for these ones down here. It's automatically going to affect it because these two are kind of grouped in this sort of way. Then from there, we just need to apply the same sort of easing to all of our top pieces. Well, actually, we're going to be doing both ease in and ease out for all these ones. Now, we could individually select each one down here and then apply it, and then choose the next one and then apply it, but it's better to do all of them at once because it's just going to save you some time. It's also difficult, or it may be difficult to kind of correlate where these keyframes are here, they're every other one, with the top points up here. What you can do instead is you can actually select them on your composition, and if you hold down the Shift key after you select one, you can select the rest of them as well, so that we have all of our top ones selected. You could also, well, I was going to say you can also Shift drag it, but I think that's going to deselect it. So we'll just do Shift select to get all of our top points. And you may have more or less than I do, it just depends on how wide your bounces are. So get all of them selected. Once you have all of them selected, since these are pretty much the exact same thing as the keyframes down here, you can also right click up here, choose Keyframe Assistant, and this time we're going to do Easy Ease. What Easy Ease will do is apply an ease to both going into the keyframe and going out of the keyframe. Now preview your animation. So it's still not completely convincing, but just with that slight adjustment, it really makes a huge difference. Easing is actually probably one of the most important of the principles of animation. I would say easing and timing are kind of tied for the #1 spot. Without those two, you have static work. So even if you just start out by applying easy eases, it's going to make a huge difference in the presentation of your project.